It's story time.
Good morning and welcome to Storytime. I'm Kimberlyn Cahill, also known as Coach Kimberlyn, here at Life's Work Yoga. And Storytime is an opportunity to share stories, to connect in a way that we can really see each other authentically in our humanity. And so I've been really kind of focused on cultivating gratitude as a way of protecting and a way of strengthening my inner resolve, because today is a hard day for many of us. It's a scary day. It's a day of hope and yet also laden with fear. Today is our national election day, and there is a lot at stake today. So without undermining the message to go vote, let your voice be heard, and that everyone is entitled to have their opinion and to express that in their vote, I do want to take a moment and encourage the fight for peace, not in fisticuffs and weapons, not necessarily even in large gatherings and protests. Right now we are in a pandemic and we are in an opportunity for powerful shift. So one of the resources that I use in my world when I'm struggling with what seems like adulting, seems like big issues, but issues that are bigger than perhaps even just my generation or my lifespan, I turn to the parables. I turn to the stories that have come before. And today I want to share with you an excerpt from this wonderful picture book, this children's storybook called Old Turtle, written, the text by Douglas Wood, and the art, the watercolors by Chen-Ki Chi. This has been a favorite in my family, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because I think that there is enough in the beginning and the end, and that we can fill in the middle. Because honestly, what it tells me is that, why it speaks so clearly to me is that I think we're in the middle of this parable, and I long so much to get to the other side. So, once, long ago, yet somehow not so very long, when all the animals and rocks and winds and waters and trees and birds and fish and all the beings of the world could speak and understand one another, there began an argument. It began softly at first, quiet as the first breeze that whispered, "He is a wind who is never still." Quiet as the stone that answered, "He is a great rock that never moves." Gentle as the mountain that rumbled, "God is a snowy peak high above the clouds." I'm turning the pages. You can see some of the artwork, because the argument grows louder, more angered, more disrespectful. "She is a hunter," roared the lion. "God is gentle," chirped the bird. "He is powerful," growled the bear. And the argument grew louder and louder and louder until stop. A new voice spoke. It rumbled loudly like thunder, and it whispered softly like butterfly sneezes. The voice seemed to come from, it seemed to come from Old Turtle. Old Turtle hardly ever said anything, and certainly never argued about God. But now Old Turtle began to speak. "God is indeed deep," she said to the fish in the sea, "and much higher than high," she told the mountains. "He is swift and free as the wind, and still and solid as a great rock," she said to the breezes and stones. "She is the life of the world," Turtle said to the willow, "always close by, yet beyond the farthest twinkling light," she told the ant and the star. "God is gentle and powerful above all things and within all things. God is all that we dream of and all that we seek, said Old Turtle. All that we come from and all that we can find. God is. Old Turtle had never said so much before. All the beings of the world were surprised and became very quiet. But Old Turtle had one more thing to say. And he welcomed the arrival of humankind and said that they would need the help of the animals and the nature, the rocks and the trees and the stars, in order to learn this lesson that the animals had learned. They go on and they show that the people have come and arrived. And yet the people are struggling. The people forgot. They forgot that they were a message of love and a prayer from the earth. And they began to argue about who knew God and who did not, and where God was and was not, and whether God was or was not. And often the people misused their powers and hurt one another or killed one another. And they hurt the earth. But finally, even the forests began to die, and the rivers and the oceans and the plants and the animals and the earth itself, because the people could not remember who they were or where God was. Until one day there came a voice like the growling of thunder, but as soft as butterfly sneezes. Please stop. The voice seemed to come from the mountain who rumbled, sometimes I see God swimming in the dark blue depths of the sea. And from the ocean who sighed, he is often among the snow-capped peaks reflecting the sun. From the stone who said, I sometimes feel her breath as she blows by. And from the breeze who whispered, I feel his still presence as I dance among the rocks. And the star declared, God is very close. And the island added, his love touches everything. And after a long, lonesome, and scary time, the people listened and began to hear and to see God in one another and in the beauty of all the earth. And Old Turtle smiled, and so did God. There is a shift happening. There is a great shift happening. And I believe that when we use our voices, not to scream, not to chant, not to declare our own righteousness, but to encourage, to see God in one another, to see God in our environment, we can cultivate the peace that the Old Turtle beckons. Every time I read this story, every time I read this story to my children when they were young, it would bring me to this weepiness. I am so filled with hope, and yet countered that with the reality of the news every day. So please use your voice, stand up, show up, speak up, and vote. Vote for kindness, vote for compassion, and vote for love. This has been Story Time. I'm Kimberlyn, and I look forward to sharing your stories and my stories as we continue this journey of inspired living and cultivating space for authenticity, for learning, for growing. Be well. Namaste.